Hi there. Calculating holiday pay for staff working split shifts can be challenging. Let's explore the key UK payroll rules.
Welcome to this explainer brought to you by Atlas Tax Advisors, or ATA for short. We're a UK accounting firm, and we specialize in advising businesses on strategic tax planning and strict statutory compliance. Today, we're focusing on a really specific, incredibly high-stakes topic: front-of-house staff payroll, split shifts, and holiday pay calculations in the UK. If you're a UK hospitality SME director or a payroll manager operating in 2026, you absolutely need to hear this. The regulatory landscape for hospitality payroll is like a giant puzzle, and as you'll see, missing even a single piece can be disastrous for your business.
So, picture this. It's a scenario playing out in pubs and restaurants across the country right now. You've got a busy startup restaurant manager throwing together the rota for a hectic Friday. They schedule a totally standard front-of-house split shift. Busy lunch service, a gap in the afternoon to rest, and then back for the evening dinner rush. It seems completely harmless, right? It's just standard industry practice. But here's the reality. Simply by structuring the rota that way without really careful oversight, they might be unknowingly breaching the working time regulations and actively eroding their team's national minimum wage.
And why should you care? Well, because of this number right here. £20,000. That's the absolute maximum financial penalty HMRC can slap on your business per worker for minimum wage underpayments. Think about that for a second. If you've got just 10 front-of-house staff affected by a simple scheduling oversight, you are looking at a potential $200,000 fine, and that's on top of the mandatory back pay you owe the staff and the incredibly damaging public naming and shaming by the government. These unseen regulatory traps carry severe financial consequences that can literally wipe out your profit margins overnight.
To ensure that doesn't happen to you, consider this explainer your ultimate survival guide. Today we're unpacking Section 1, the split shift trap. Section 2, minimum wage erosion. Section 3, the accommodation offset rules. Section 4, rolled up holiday pay for 2026. And finally, Section 5, how you can actively go about protecting your business.
Okay, let's dive right into this with Section 1, the split shift trap and navigating the working time regulations of 1998.
The law actually defines a split shift quite differently from how we treat it on the floor. Under Regulation 22, adult workers, so anyone 18 and over, are legally entitled to 11 consecutive hours of daily rest between working days. It's a strict health and safety requirement. Now, in hospitality, we see something all the time called a close opening. You know the drill. Your bartender closes the pub at midnight, clocks out at 12:30 a.m., and is back on site to open for breakfast prep at 8 a.m. They're only getting 7.5 hours of rest. In the eyes of HMRC and employment tribunals, that's a direct breach of the law. You are legally obligated to provide compensatory rest to make up for that missed downtime. If you fail to record that, you are completely exposed.
But the trap goes even deeper, especially when we look at statutory breaks. The law says that if a working day exceeds 6 hours, the worker must get an uninterrupted 20-minute rest break. Now for split shifts, you have to look at the aggregate, the combined active working time. Let's say a server does 4 hours at lunch, goes home, and comes back for 3 hours at dinner. Their total active time is 7 hours. Because they cross that 6-hour line, they have to get a 20-minute break. But here is the critical error so many operators make. That unpaid gap in the afternoon, it does not count as the statutory rest break. The law is very clear that the 20-minute break has to happen during actual active working time. Sending them home for the afternoon just doesn't fulfill your legal obligation.
Did you know this? It's honestly such a common oversight. In fact, many companies encounter this issue only when reviewing their tax or payroll positions during a formal audit. It's a massive wake-up call for directors when they realize that routine scheduling habits, the things managers are doing every single day, can translate directly into severe payroll compliance failures.
And Section 2 shows us exactly how this scheduling trap feeds into a much bigger financial headache: minimum wage erosion. So, for 2026, the national living wage sits at £12.71 per hour for adults. But paying exactly £12.71 on paper absolutely does not guarantee you're compliant. HMRC evaluates your effective pay. They strictly view any requirement tied to the job as a deduction from that effective pay. Imagine you ask your staff to arrive 15 minutes early for an unpaid pre-shift briefing, or you make them stay 15 minutes late to cash up the tills, or maybe you require them to wear specific black non-slip shoes that cost £40 and you don't refund them. In HMRC's eyes, those unpaid times and mandatory costs are deducted right out of their pay. Suddenly, your $12.71 an hour is dragged down to $12.20 an hour.
you are now illegally paying below the minimum wage, and you're fully liable for those massive underpayment penalties we talked about.
Now let's move to Section 3, the accommodation offset rules, which is absolutely vital if you operate a rural gastropub or a hotel.
If you provide living accommodation for your staff, you need to memorize this number right now, £10.66. That is the maximum daily accommodation offset rate for April 2026. It works out to roughly £74.62 a week. Why is this exact number so crucial? Because providing accommodation is literally the only benefit in kind that can legally be factored into minimum wage calculations. HMRC put this in place to stop employers from exploiting staff with crazy rent deductions. If you charge your live-in kitchen porter a market rent of, say, $15 a day, the amount above the limit instantly reduces their effective pay for minimum wage purposes. If you overcharge by even a single pound, you will trigger an HMRC underpayment investigation. No exceptions.
Okay, on to Section 4, Rolled Up Holiday Pay 2026. This brings us to the absolute minefield that is holiday pay for 0 hours and irregular hours staff.
If your staff work hours that fluctuate wildly, you can't just pay them their basic hourly rate when they take time off. You have to use the strict 52-week averaging rule. Let's break it down. Step 1. You look back through their history, sometimes going back 104 weeks, just to find 52 weeks where they actually performed work, ignoring any sick leave or unpaid weeks. Step 2. Sum up everything they earned. Yes, that includes shift premiums for late nights, overtime, and sometimes even tips or service charges if they're a structural part of their normal pay. Step 3. Divide that total to find their true average weekly earnings. This right here is where businesses fail audits constantly. If your server averages $15 an hour because of late night premiums, you can't just pay them their $12.71 base rate for their holiday. You have to pay them their average reality.
And this brilliantly illustrates why having the right systems is a game changer. Tracking a 52-week rolling average on a static spreadsheet, manually stripping out unpaid weeks, and calculating varying shift allowances for a massive roster of staff, it's mathematically exhausting and completely prone to human error. Managing all of this through robust digital software is practically the only way to show an HMRC auditor exactly how you reached your final figures.
Thankfully, there's a simpler alternative for genuine irregular hours and part-year workers, which was brought back in April 2024, Rolled Up Holiday Pay, or RUHP. Instead of doing that crazy 52-week average, you just calculate their holiday pay as a flat 12.07% of their total pay. Then, you add it as a separate, clearly itemized slice on top of every single payslip. So your worker earns $100 on their shift, you pay them $100 plus $12.07 right then and there. It really streamlines things. But, and this is a massive but, you still legally have to encourage them to actually take their time off for health and safety reasons. You can't just pay them more to never take a holiday.
So, with all of these potential traps laid bare, let's jump into Section 5, Enforcement and Risk Mitigation, and how you can actually protect your business.
Make no mistake about it, HMRC enforces these rules incredibly aggressively. As we mentioned, you're looking at up to a 200% penalty on underpayments, plus the total nightmare of public naming and shaming. And it's only getting tighter. In October 2026, the Employment Rights Act reforms will extend the statutory time limit for workers to bring a tribunal claim for working time breaches from 3 months to 6 months. Your liability window is literally doubling. Disgruntled ex-employees now have twice as long to report a pay violation.
Which brings us to a really crucial professional tip from our advisory team. Maintaining proper records is absolutely essential for HMRC compliance. If you're investigated, the burden of proof falls entirely on you. HMRC expects you to have exact timesheets, rota data, detailed payslips, and proof of compensatory rest for at least 3 to 6 years, depending on the rule. Without that historical evidence filed away securely, you have no defense whatsoever in an audit.
So the crucial point is this. You have to bridge the gap between what the manager put on the rota and what actually happened on the floor. Utilizing digital time tracking fixes this. It maps your exact rota cycles to your exact pay reference periods. If someone clocks in 15 minutes early for a handover, the system catches it, flags the minimum wage risk, and your payroll tops them up automatically. It gives you total peace of mind because you fix the risk before an auditor ever knocks on your door.
Navigating split shifts, wage erosion, and holiday averages really doesn't have to be a nightmare that keeps you up at night, but you do need expert oversight and the right systems, and that is exactly what we do. Contact Atlas Tax Advisors today to safeguard your payroll. Call us on 07404 427 275, drop us an email at info@atlastax.co.uk, or visit www.atlastax.co.uk. And hey, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more expert explainers.
Just a quick note before we go. The information contained in this explainer is for general information purposes only and does not constitute specific legal, accounting, or tax advice tailored to your specific circumstances. As we wrap up today's deep dive into the 2026 hospitality payroll landscape, I want to leave you with one very provocative question to ask your management team tomorrow morning. When an inspector inevitably asks for your records, is your current payroll software truly protecting your business, or is it just hiding an incredibly expensive mistake? Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.